Alright, time for another draftphysics.com, debatephysics.com also, video presentation. So, as I predicted, okay, it's another case of, I suggest an experiment, I diagram it, and people decide to modify it and then say it's my experiment, and then strawman me with the results being something other than what I predicted. Yeah, I don't make predictions for, experiments I didn't do or experiments I didn't describe. So, it's just unfair on its face for people to make the claims they make. So Dispar has stated that he's completely confident that the issue and the subject has been completely resolved because of his 2-minute video proving momentum isn't conserved. Okay. And I have made the counter argument that his experiment ain't all that, okay, and it certainly wasn't presented in some sort of what one would argue is a scientific manner. It was, a propagandist, not somebody seeking the truth. In the sense, it's a 2-minute video, shows absolutely nothing about how the experiment was done and what conditions it was under, and so it's just all bullshit. So, but here is the concession. Yes, the experiment I showed, he's basically going to say, isn't really the experiment you described. It's a different experiment. All right. And again, my argument is if you do this so you can account for where the energy is, that is, it's sort of like the elastic argument. If you're doing an elastic experiment between objects that can't break into pieces, okay, and they can't absorb energy internally, they can't deform, and they can't just vibrate forever, then the energy has to, whatever happens, like billiard balls, there's no place for the energy to hide. Okay, you can lose a little bit to the felt moving, you can lose a little bit here and there, but basically you're stuck with just hard objects, and the basic idea is you can just follow the energy fairly easily because it can't hide as little pieces flying off or dents in the balls or some other kind of bullshit. All right, and the same argument is here. This experiment has the same limitations. You have to create a circumstance where there are no other variables. There's just this is moving or this is moving. There can't be some other system somewhere else that's also moving. Because if you do that, then yes, that system could be moving exactly opposite of what this system is doing, and therefore the energy is hiding. And you're not gonna do what you're claiming to do, which is account for all of it. All right. So play the video. But yeah, just really annoying in a way that he could talk so arrogant in his comments section. And they could all talk as if, oh yeah, you've really done it, you've done the job, blah blah blah, and then he concedes, nah, this isn't my experiment.
Alright, so a couple of things. Look, DraftScience, the setup that you have described for the coupled oscillator, alright, so where both...
Alright, so you can see in this diagram, I could use the little arrow here, and let me make this bigger. But it's worse than I thought. Okay, I didn't think it was as bad as he actually did do the experiment. I mean, the rubber band is completely changing the angles of the pendulums. I mean, it's a huge. You're talking about inches of difference between their what would be their average, their real spacing, and their spacing here. Okay, so I should be able to do this. Alright, so here's the rubber band. Okay, and here, these points are where he actually has the pendulums. If the pendulums were hanging naturally, they'd be hanging down way out here. So you're talking about half the distance. They've been pulled in to half the distance between them. All right, and you can see quite clearly, all right, that one side, the angle is different. That is, one side is being pulled less than the other side is being pulled. So one side is more of a bend, and therefore that's probably why these timing gates don't look right. I think one of them's higher than the other. It's because they're not, they're not swinging in the same amount of gravity. Their highest point and their lowest points aren't even because this pendulum isn't even. And so every time the pendulums move, the rubber band does this. It's changing these angles. So every time the rubber band moves, every time these two things swing, this rubber band goes high on this side and low on that side, then high on this side and low on that side. So it's shifting how high or low the pendulums are actually, the arc they're swinging in. So the arc the pendulums are swinging in is constantly changing. So now you're not doing velocity anymore. Now you're doing this too. So you're changing the height at which they're swinging, which obviously is going to change how much energy they are going to display in velocity. Because in one case, one fell further than the other one fell. All right. So, wait, is it? It didn't let go. Oh, that's kind of interesting that I can just move it around so freely without having to click. Anyway, so yeah, I lots of flaws in this setup. And again, no measurement of center of mass here, nothing, none of that. But these huge angles are the problem. This is like putting a steel bar here. The coupled oscillator is now, it's not, the coupled is even the wrong word. I mean, it's really married. And all you wanted was an ability to effect one thing to affect the other, to exchange the energy. You didn't want them constantly to be dampened, by a rigid mechanism that forces them to be in constant contact. All right.
Pendulums must hang perfectly straight, and them being connected with a loose string. I have done that before I started doing it with this rubber band. Right? I have done what you have.
Right, and I did it. Okay, so that's the part that you're just ignoring. Okay, because I didn't promote my video as a proof. Okay, but the fact is, I did do it. I did video it. I did show it, and what it shows doesn't look like 1.2, and it doesn't look like 1.3, and it doesn't even look like 1.4. Okay, it looks like a hell of a difference. But whatever.
Requested. So what I did was so perfectly straight pendulums connected with a loose string, and in the middle I put a little weight on it.
Yeah, I don't know how little that weight was, so that's the problem. I should have never even mentioned the weight, because frankly it works without it. So I should have never even mentioned adding any weight, because what you don't want to do is create, you can see it here, look at this angle. This one's bent about 1.5 inches away. This one's bent like 4 inches. So this one's the length of the pendulum is literally a different length because of the huge angle. Now, yeah, I probably should just draw it. Yeah. It's not that big a deal. It's not gonna kill you to learn something. But it's just, you can understand just how big a difference this makes. All right, so he has the attachment points out here, and then he's pulled the two pendulums in with an elastic band here. Okay, so it is flexible, but it really is tying the two things directly to each other where they never escape each other, frankly. All right, and I should draw this more dramatic, just so it's illustrative of the truth here. All right, so you have this dramatic angle on one side and this much smaller angle on the other side, and then the drop down. So you could understand that these lengths of pendulum can't be the same, right? This is Pythagorean, okay? These hypotenuses are going to be different length lines, okay, because of this. And you can understand that, yeah, the real swinging arc is this real length of the whole string. That's the real arc. and that real arc is going to be moved here, or it can be moved down here, depending on which way this moves. So it can change this angle to this more dramatic angle, or it can reduce this angle to this less dramatic angle. And now all of a sudden your arc is here, the base point is here, not here. The base of your swinging arc changes from this location to this location. So this is far from a clean system where you're going to get a clean exchange between the two. One of them is going to be changing the other one as it changes. So really not ideal. So he says he did it the other way and he didn't like it for whatever reason. Okay. Now, since I got the board here, I might as well preempt that next argument he's going to make. So the real point of this experiment is the fact that he claims that he can destroy momentum. All right, it's a free momentum, destroy momentum contention they have, and I'm saying no, you can never destroy the momentum. You just got to do like Richard Feynman says. You got to go look for it. It's always somewhere. You can never kill MV. All right, so so in that context, let's say that he did the experiment and he can't get this one to completely stop. So he has a 2 mass here and a 1 mass here. And so this one swings, but it never comes to a complete stop. It just goes like that instead. And then, the energy goes from, this one goes a little bit there, and then it goes like this. But you never do a full exchange. Well, as I've pointed out, momentum isn't directional. Momentum isn't who cares who has it. The fact is the total momentum will always be the same. So if you add up the potential energy created by gravity, you could argue, or by location, you'll know that this thing's velocity is directly proportional to this height. Okay, so if the thing is moving fast, then it's low. All right, and so that's the way of understanding the arc. The arc of the swing is really telling you this velocity, this arrow, okay, is proportional to this arrow. So when you add up those two arrows inversely, okay, so just say this height, I should have put this arrow the other way direction. All right, so this arrow going up. All right, so when there's very little up, there's a very big velocity. When there's a lot of up, there's very little velocity. So these two arrows are always proportional. So you could do the same thing here, and you can just say whatever energy you still have in this one is the energy that would be over here if it did go over here, and that no matter where they are in terms of this, that is, what if both of them are swinging the same amount? You're at that point where 50% of the energy is here and 50% is here. It's going to be the same exact momentum when 0% is here and 100% is here. The velocity to height ratio is going to be exactly the same, so you still can measure it. So just by measuring velocity, okay, you can say that if this one only has 20% velocity, okay, and this one has 80% velocity, it's always going to have to be in one or the other. Velocity times mass, of course. The momentum is still going to be equal all the time in the system. That's the argument. Clearly, this thing oscillates for 10 minutes. So clearly, the momentum's always in the system. And that's always been the argument. And he's claiming that no, I can kill the momentum. When the momentum's on this side, there's less. And when it's over here, it's more. Can't do that. It doesn't really happen. That's the contention you're making. And frankly, if you're going to make that contention, you got to do a lot better than a 2-minute video where you show absolutely nothing about how you did the experiment or how you set it up. And I'm not being some ogre or some desperate person trying to do some desperate thing because I demand a little better science than this shit. these propaganda videos. Again, I can go back to 1735 and I can argue with you right now, and I can say, do you think they did good science, Dispar? Can you understand that denting clay with round things might not work? Can you understand how that just ends up being a propaganda experiment? That you're not really showing the truth. You're just deceiving people because they're too ignorant to understand the variable they didn't account for. God, you people are so dishonest. All right. So back to the video. Come on. All right. I guess we can move it up a little and continue.
Okay, I've done that. I have recorded it, right? But the setup, you can only see the setup for a very short time. Okay, yes, I also hand recorded it, but the reason why I did not upload it is because it didn't really work. Because
so again, he says it doesn't work when I showed it on my porch working. All right, I mean, so on my porch it clearly worked. I mean, it did come to a complete, pretty much a complete stop on one side, and the other side had all the energy. So it does work. The fact is, you just weren't willing to do whatever it needed to be done in your case to adjust the variables to get it to be in sync. Whether because your pendulums weren't the wrong length, or you had too much weight, or you did something to fuck it up. But it's clearly doable because I did it, and I didn't struggle to make it happen. I showed you what I did, okay? I mean, it really wasn't that much to it.
Not all of the energy was transferred, okay? The one mass only came out between 1.2 and 1.3 times the velocity than the second mass.
Yeah, because probably you had the same defect in the experiment and had way too much weight on it. But who knows? We haven't seen it yet. All right, but go ahead, make your contention. 1.2. I mean, I'm just saying, go look at the video I posted of what I did on my porch, and it has absolutely no appearance of being anywhere near a 1.2.
And also, when the second mass swing, not all of the energy was transferred because.
So again, who cares? All you're trying to figure out is momentum destroyed? So does the total momentum start diminishing? So your argument is when the light object is moving, there's more momentum in the system than when the heavy object is moving. So obviously when the exchange is taking place, you should see clear increases and decreases in the total momentum. So you have two timing gates, you know the velocity of both things and the weights of both things. So clearly you could take a measurement, you could take 10 different measurements and recognize that all you have to do is match those two measurements. When one is going faster, the other one's going slower, but the total should always remain the same.
Second mass did not.
I mean, by my theory, it remains the same. By your theory, the total should be changing.
To a full stop, and vice versa. When the one mass gives back the energy, the one mass never came to a full stop. It still kept swinging a little bit.
Right, so fine, just add that. Just say how much is still left over there. So you know you have 80% in one side and 20% in the other side. Do you still have twice the momentum? Or do you have half the momentum? The total still, you're going to see from the number. What's the total momentum? If the total momentum is remaining the same, I'm right. Okay, if the total momentum isn't remaining the same, then you are.
So not all of the energy was transferred. So, all right, so it came out between 1.2 and 1.3 times the velocity. So there was a...
Yeah, well, I'm saying absolute bullshit to that. So I'm just saying if the pendulums are actually straight lines, that is, you don't have them tied, bent into each other, that won't be the truth. Okay, that's not... All right, back. So continuing. I'm just saying, okay, he's claiming you can't do these certain things, and I'm saying, well, I don't think he tried very hard. Okay, that would be my obvious statement. And again, this idea that somehow when you put the energy in one way, again, if you start the energy in one side, you're supposed to lose half the momentum. You put the energy in the other way, you're supposed to gain, free momentum. And he's saying it always came out 1.2 either way he did it or something like that. Well, I'm just saying I don't think so.
A great loss of energy. An even greater loss for your model. So
says you. Okay, it's not, my model doesn't say you subtract the energy that's still in the other object, so clearly that's horse shit. That the total momentum is somehow gone. All right, so again, it doesn't show that. That's not what the experiment showed, so you're exaggerating again. Obviously it showed you didn't transfer all the energy, so we know some of the energy is still stuck in the other object. So yeah, you got 1.2 over here, and you have whatever point something else over on the other side, and maybe when you add all that together, it'll come back to 2 again.
Okay, but I will upload it anyway to show you that I have done it, and I will try.
I'm frankly not going to be interested in done badly. So again, if you're going to just keep doing it badly, I'm not that interested, okay? I'm not interested in doing these videos every fucking time saying, well, that's not what I suggested, and that's not good enough, and this is crappy camera angle, and clearly this timing gate looks like it's higher than the other timing gate, so that's sort of horseshit right there. What the fuck's that all about? I mean, it clearly looks like it's 2 inches higher than the other one is. 1.5 inches, whatever. So what the fuck?
To redo it again. Okay, and also you kept saying why did you stop doing the lever experiment? Why did you stop?
I just mentioned it, okay, is that every time this happens, right? So all of a sudden there was dropping stuff on clay. That stopped as soon as the results came out my way. That was the last we saw any clay smashing experiments because, oops, the results came out Gary's way. All right, and so then we had to move to these silly fucking spring experiments, and I keep pointing out how, well, you're moving everything so goddamn fucking fast that I think you're going beyond the capacity of the spring to absorb the energy. Did anybody fix any of that? No. Okay. They do the lever experiment. I explain how the catapult experiment. I explain how, well, you got to get rid of this angular rotation problem. Yeah, Brozo was right to slide things across glass. Probably a great idea. All of this stuff, nah, who cares? Let's not pay any attention to that either. I pointed out how the levers absorb in the energy. You probably need to change the 2-to-1 relationship in distance. The Hooke's law thing. The law of the lever is the law of the ideal lever. So real levers that have weight, you have to use different numbers. You can't use 2-to-1 anymore. You have to adjust those numbers a little bit so the same fraction of the energy is being absorbed by the lever in both launches. That's the ideal you're searching for, is that you want both of them taxed the same amount. So I pointed out how that taxing argument again applies to your little cars moving, in the sense that you're putting different amounts of weight on the same number of wheels. And, well, that's going to get you into trouble. And none of those experiments were updated. So the fact that I pointed it out doesn't mean I'm nagging. I'm just saying it does seem to be a trend, doesn't it? Or you don't see the trend that every time I request modifications, those modifications really don't take place? That all of a sudden the experiment ends, it stops being interesting, as soon as I point out the flaws in the experimental setup. Things that might have been causing the results to come out your way. All of a sudden now the experiments aren't getting done. And again, I kept saying, well, it doesn't matter. Okay, don't do them. Just do what you're doing. And then when I redo the experiments, when I do them, okay, well, then we can match our results. And we'll see which one has real integrity.
Launching the cart experiment. I will get back to it. I will redo them again. So don't worry. I will.
Yeah, take your time. It's okay. I'm just saying you didn't say that. All right, you just moved on, and I'm just saying that that's all that's the trend is. I mean, Gosling hasn't gone back to any of the experiments he was playing with before. He just does them, gets what he wants as a result, and that's the end. The end. I give you the broken example, and that's it. It's as far as it's going.
do them. I didn't throw away all the stuff in the garbage. It's still here. I got my carbon rod over here. I will set it up again, creating the lever. I bought two new cars, the same cars, same size, same weight. So,
and again, I just don't even know if the car thing in concept is the best idea. Maybe just find something else to scoot that has the same friction coefficient. That is, you have the same surface area to weight ratios, so you don't have any risk that you're again creating an unequal variable. So they have the same capacity to have a binding friction with the surface.
I can try it out. I will put them in front of each other as a two weight. Okay, I will do that. So everything's still here. I just I was done with it.
Yeah, okay, that's all fine. Okay.
And then you mentioned the couple oscillator, and I was like,
we waited over 2 months for physicist Michael. Okay, so yeah, it takes time. That's fine. It takes time. I can't look. I yeah, I have to do a bunch of reorganizing of my space, and then my back got fucked, and then I got shingles, and so yeah, I'm behind the schedule I was hoping for, and that's way behind because I still got a bunch of work I got to do for the other stuff I wasn't able to do for the last 2 weeks that I got to catch up on.
I was like, oh yeah, interesting. I would like to do that.
And I'm still not very good.
And I couldn't wait with it. But I will get back to it. Okay, I will redo these experiments. Just hold on. And okay, I will also take into account all the...
I mean, again, it looks pretty glaring that these two detectors aren't at the same height. I mean, just right there, you should be saying, yeah, that's probably, there's something wrong if they're not at the same height. So I'm doing something wrong if I have to put them at a different height, then something's wrong.
Little variations that you would want me to do. Change this and see what happens. Change that and see what happens. I'm also interested in seeing what happens if we do small variations.
Yeah, well, you say that, but I don't take it too seriously. I think you're interested in, defending your accusation that I'm full of shit and wrong, and that's all you really want to do. And that's what you sort of demonstrated with the 2-minute video where none of the details were shown, where I couldn't see just how bizarrely, canted these angles are for these pendulums. A huge difference from their natural hanging points.
I just do not expect a gigantic...
Yes, you don't expect it. So what? I don't expect the opposite just because, yeah, I've done the experiments, okay? I mean, I put the balance and I showed it oscillating with the, twice the kinetic energy on one side that's on the other side. I just kept pointing out, how can an oscillator do that? It's not possible. And I pointed out all the other experiments that demonstrate that none of this kinetic energy works in space. The most ideal environment you can create, all right, in terms of creating these exchanges without the external bullshit getting in the way. And so yeah, I'm really confident too. Yeah.
Or dramatic differences, but okay, I will do them anyway, and I will...
My simple argument to you is the dramatic difference is that all you have to do is destroy energy in your experiment, and that's helpful to your argument, right? So I'm just saying it's really easy to create experiments that leak. It's really easy to create a leaky bucket or a leaky balloon or a leaky something. It's really easy to poke holes in it. So that's not an issue, and it just shows that the more leaky the logic is in setting up the experiment, the more leaky the results are likely to be. And I pointed out the things to avoid, and you didn't avoid those things at all.
Try to create a more professional setup. I mean, showing you the entire thing, showing you that both the timers are set up nice and straight, perpendicular, I'm going to show you the center of mass. I'm going to show you every angle of the experiments. All right, I'm going to show you absolutely everything.
It doesn't, it's not, oh, this whole everything. You don't have, you don't have to do the Brozo overreaction where I'll show you 100 versions of exactly the same thing. So please spare me that. But yeah, I can actually watch more than 2 minutes of video. It is possible.
Everything, or as much as possible at least.
I guess I would just segregate the meat from the superfluous extra stuff. So do the extra stuff, blah, 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 get it done, and then have the meat of the experiment, a summation even.
Maybe even top view and stuff like that. So just hold on. But for now, I have other priorities that are more important for my life and my career. But it will come. So hang on.
So again, it's all fine. I'm just saying that if you're going to be an experimentalist, you do have to recognize that you do have to kind of understand the theory that you're attempting to experimentally dissect. And here the theory is that the energy is either in the potential energy of gravity or in the velocity of the object. And those are the only two places it can be, and you have to account for it. So you just really have to understand that if you have a velocity up here, you don't have as much potential. You've lost some of your potential energy because you're not at your lowest point. So you have to these are all important details. You keep trivializing them and attempting to say they don't matter. And again, you keep doing that in your rhetoric. So I have to take you from what you say in your comment section, which is, I've proven it all, and it's all well established, and I proved it beyond any reasonable doubt. No reasonable person could ever critique my experiments as not being perfect. I mean, that's what you're essentially saying in your comment section. That this is just nitpicking. Because, oh yeah, well, how are you going to go from 0.2 to 2? Well, I'm arguing that that is realistically what you're stuck with. Again, you still haven't even theoretically explained to me how it's possible in this mechanical universe for your analysis of the pendulum experiment, where they bang into each other, how your analysis can make any sense at all. How you can put a car crash with 100 momentums and create two cars moving with 200 momentums, and then the two cars that have 200 momentum, that is 50 and 150, and they crash into each other and only 100 comes out. You're saying that, oh look, my results are undeniable, it's 1.2. And I'm saying bullshit. It's not 1.2 in any real world collision. Alright, so Walker comments, absolutely useless. Look what happens when you replace the rubber band by a lightweight rigid rod. It's the same thing that's going to happen because you're changing the angle of the pendulum then. Unless the rod is the same length as the string length. But you're still going to have the problem that the rod can do this and the rod can do that. And that's what you're trying to evade, is any direct connection. You're just trying to subtly move the energy from one side to the other. You're trying to get this side is moving. And you're trying to just say, I'm going to put a little tug on it. And I'm just going to take a little bit of the energy, put it over here. Then I'm a little bit of the energy, put it over here. A little bit of the energy, put it over here. And then you'll have all the energy on one side and none of the energy on the other side. That's the ideal you're trying to create. And you're not going to do that if the two objects are always tied to each other. Directly tied to each other. Alright. So, enough of a video. Till the next time. So at least there's the concession that it's not the experiment I described. So we'll take that for being some progress. And such. So for the